Hey everyone, how's it going? Pixels here, and I'm finally updating my melee tier list on Evil Dead the game. I don't think I've done one of these in about 8 months or something, so we've had a lot of new weapons introduced into the game. I've had obviously a lot more experience and time playing with each weapon, and I think my last tier list I actually put like the chainsaw on S tier and stuff like that, which for me now it's kind of hard to fathom that actually even happening, because of the way the chainsaw is designed with its hit detection and stuff. It's pretty crazy. So obviously a lot of stuff has changed, so I thought it was time to do an updated survivor melee weapon tier list. That is a mouthful to say, but I definitely won't be putting that in the title. But anyways, let's jump straight into this. So the first one is the baseball bat. So I obviously don't have the stats or anything pulled up here. I'm just going off the top of my head. What I remember has like better dismemberment, better balance bar, and better damage overall and stuff. And what just feels nice to use in the game. Actually, before we begin, I will say that I'm going to be judging them on their common rarity. I'm not going to be like, oh, but a legendary knife's better than a fucking common, lumberjack axe or something. I'm not going to be doing that type of thing. This is all just going to be from their basic stats. It's not going to be anything to do with weapon rarities at all. So, we're coming to the baseball bat. It's kind of a weapon that you just want to pick up, just because you can't find anything else. It's not terrible, but it could be so much better. A spiked bat, you feel like that could be one of the best melee weapons in like a horror, killing deadite type of game, or killing zombie type of games. A spike bat's always very popular in these types of games, but this one, it really falls short, mainly because it has less balance bar damage than a chainsaw as well. Obviously not everyone can use the chainsaw, but the animations are clunky, the heavy attacks aren't great. It's always open, like it's very slow attack speed. It feels like everything else attacks a lot faster than this baseball bat. So for me, I'm probably going to put it around C tier. I wouldn't say it's the worst weapon in the game. It is good for sometimes spamming finishes and stuff. With it being a two-handed blunt weapon, it's still a bit confusing for me though why it has lower balance bar damage than a chainsaw. It's pretty confusing, honestly. So for me, it just belongs in C tier. The animations aren't great. It does have some great finishes though, don't get me wrong. But in terms of like a meta or trying to be really effective in the game, it's only really working well over on the leader side of things, so spamming finishes like on El Jefe or someone, and even then you're usually picking up a higher rarity one. You're not going to be picking up a common baseball bat, because most other common weapons will do a better job than that. So I'm just going to put that in C tier. So the chainsaw for me, the chainsaw is a difficult one because the heavy attacks are really bad on it. However, the light attacks do really good balance bar damage, especially for like leader Ash or warrior Ash. The problem is obviously not everyone can pick it up as well, so there's only like, I think there's 3 characters in the game that can pick it up. Obviously support Ash can't grab it either, so I think I'm going to probably put it around A tier. Like I said, I don't think it's terrible. There is methods you can use the heavy attacks on it, and it does have some really good balance bar and dismemberment stats. So I think A tier is probably just like the sweet spot for it there. I don't think it's a B tier weapon. I think it's slightly better than B tier. So yeah, I think A tier probably is where it belongs. The hand axe is not great. I'm gonna probably put that in D tier. Obviously playing like support Ash and hunters, I will tend to pick these weapons up, but only when they're at a higher rarity. Common hand axes aren't great, honestly, so I'm going to put that in D tier, unfortunately. The combat knife, I think the combat knife belongs in B tier. It's kind of a mid weapon. It's not great, like it's not amazing and it's not terrible, so I think B tier is where it belongs. Obviously, it's a 5-speed attack weapon. Obviously, it's really bad on warriors, especially because, they have faster attack speed. So that can be really open to killing the entire team with a hunting knife or a combat knife, whatever you want to call it. I've done that numerous times as demon, where I've possessed a warrior when they've had a combat knife, and I've pretty much downed the whole team with them. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, the hunting knife, it's not terrible. It can work well with support characters. Hunters can work well with the hunting knife as well. It's not really something I'd pick up on leader, because leader I'm more than likely gonna use something like a balance bar type of weapon. So B tier, I said it's not terrible, works well with support characters primarily, so we're gonna leave it there. The lumberjack axe, that baby's going straight into S tier. This weapon is fucking amazing. It's in a league of its own, honestly, compared to all the other weapons in the game, because it has the hyper armor. For those of you who don't know what hyper armor is, if you're new to the game, hyper armor is something where you can't really be interrupted during your heavy attacks. And heavy attacks, especially playing warrior and stuff, become very important. And you know, like using it on support Ash, it's great for healing as well. Even a common lumberjack axe I will pick up almost over any other weapon rarity in the game. Like I nearly dropped a legendary sword the other day for a common lumberjack axe, just because I just love the combat with that weapon. You know, swinging the heavies, it's not bad for doing finishes as well. Even their light attacks comboed with the heavy attacks, it's absolutely a fantastic weapon. And it's sad because, you know, we have some great melee weapons here, and I really wish they were kind of up to the standard of the lumberjack axe, and I'm actually surprised the devs haven't even nerfed this weapon because of just how good it is. So we're going to move on. So the next one is the mace. The mace is going to go straight into A tier for me. I think it's a fantastic weapon to use. The light attacks, the heavy attacks. It has some sort of hyper armor about it as well, which is, you know, really important on a weapon. It's great for breaking balance bars too, you know, spamming finishes with leader Ash. You know, using a mace on leader Ash when I was doing the prestige challenges was it was either that or a sword. I thought was working really well for doing the finishes for that. But yeah, breaking balance bars, doing a lot of damage with that. You know, the light and the heavy attacks aren't terrible. Has some great finishes as well. I think it belongs in A tier. The machete, again, not my favorite weapon to use. Probably going to go in C tier. It's, you know, a common machete. It's something you pick up if you can't find, you know, any of these up here really at the moment. So you pick up machete. You know, it works well on like hunters and again support characters. So, you know, it's a nice build-up weapon till you find something better, and it's not terrible. You know, it has some good finishes as well. Has a good attack speed, decent dismemberment, and it can help to like stun lock units, so you can get some special moves applied and some finishes, so it works well there. And the meat cleaver is going straight into D tier. I'm sorry, nobody should be ever picking up a common meat cleaver. Not even as a last resort. I'd rather use my bare fist. I don't know what it is with this weapon. You know, you're doing the heavy attacks and the light attacks is pretty bad. It has some really good finishes though, but you know, if we did a tier list based around weapon finishes, this would look totally different, obviously. Maybe we'll do that for another video, but for practicality reasons, I just don't think the meat cleaver belongs any higher than D tier, honestly. The meat hammer, I'm probably going to put in B tier. I think that works pretty well. You know, it has good balance bar damage, fast attack speed, especially if you're using a character like Kelly. It's really good for doing special moves and finishes there. Again, it's not a weapon that I primarily look out for unless I'm playing Kelly, but you know, it's not terrible on support characters or hunters again, but you know, it's not really a weapon I'll be picking up on leader Ash unless it has a higher rarity as well, or you know, playing leader in general. But yeah, I mean, it's any 3-speed or 5-speed weapon I tend to avoid with warrior. Still think it's a good weapon to put in B tier, despite it only really being working with like 2 or 3 classes. The next one is the common pickaxe. So I actually kind of like this weapon. It plays a lot. Like, you know, you look at the hand axe and the pickaxe. The pickaxe actually has, I think, slightly higher damage than the hand axe, which is a bit bizarre. But it's actually not a terrible weapon, so I'm going to put that in C tier. I actually love using this on support Ash, mainly at higher rarities though. But you know, a common one again works fantastic. You know, it has decent hyper armor as well, using the heavy attacks, and you know, combined with last word, it can do a pretty good job. And you know, the 3-speed weapons, like I said, they're really good for hunters and support characters. So you know, it has some nice finishes applied to it too, so I think it does belong in there. So the pipe was the most recent weapon, and so the pipe is a bit of a weird one because it's classified as a blunt weapon. However, it's got higher dismemberment than the baseball bat, and they're both blunt weapons, but it just doesn't make sense. You know, it's a 2-handed blunt weapon. It has like, you know, if people said that was like a rusty bit or a rusty nail sticking off the pipe there, it's actually not. When I looked at it in full res image, it's actually like a handle to like turn on a pipe, like you know, to open a valve or something. So I can kind of guess maybe is why it should have higher dismemberment, but it's a bit bizarre because obviously I think nails will be higher dismemberment than the pipe. But anyways, it's not a terrible weapon. It has some great finishes now. Sadly it shares the same animations as the baseball bat, which is quite unfortunate. Otherwise I think it would be a lot higher, but I'm probably just going to put it in B tier. It still feels a bit nicer to use than the baseball bat, and especially you know, spamming finishes on leader Ash and all the characters like that. I don't think it's terrible for that. But yeah, it's a shame because I think it would be a higher tier weapon if it didn't share the same animations as the baseball bat. But yeah, I think like a low B tier is probably the right spot for that. The scythe, I just it's a weapon that I just don't like using at all. I know a lot of people probably who are watching this video might use the scythe quite often. I just personally don't think like the heavy attacks are great on it. All the animations kind of feel off of it. It has some cool finishes though. It's just, it feels like a very slow and sluggish weapon to use, and yeah, it has a decent hit radius, so you could argue that it works sort of well on support Ash and characters like that. However, I just don't think it's that viable of a weapon. So I'm going to put it like probably bit higher than the baseball bat, so I'll put it like high C tier. I don't think it belongs any higher, if I'm being honest. Like I said, the animations on that weapon just feel totally off. I've tried using it as much as possible and try and get used to it. There's just not a way to get used to that weapon. It has some good stats though, you know, it's up there with like the lumberjack axe and stuff for stat wise. It's just, you know, but how slow the animations feel, you can be very easily interrupted with this weapon, so that's why I just don't really like using it, especially a common one. If I see a common like scythe on the floor, I'm more than likely going to be picking up a common pipe over that, or you know, even like a common mace or something. So definitely don't really like using that weapon that much, but I'm sure you guys might have even more practice than me with it. You might enjoy it, but you know, maybe it's at higher rarities as well. It could really be something that you could look at using. But for me, at common, I think I'd rather use majority of other weapons here than I would using a scythe there. So the next one is the shovel. The shovel for me, I'm going to put high B tier. I'm not going to put it in A tier. I don't mind the shovel. I actually think it's really nice, like spamming the light attacks on that. It shares the same animations as the sledgehammer as well. The heavy attacks aren't bad on it. I love the sound effects it makes when it hits the deadites as well. And I said it's got some really good finishes. But practicality wise, it's not amazing, but I think it is better than all these other weapons here. So if I see a shovel, I'm more likely going to pick that up over than any of these weapons, really. So I really enjoy using the weapon. I've used it since the beta. Like I said, I absolutely love the sound effects on it, and it's really nice with spamming finishes. And you know, I think BT is probably the right spot for it. The next one is the sledgehammer, though. The sledgehammer, I'm probably going to put in between the chainsaw and the mace. I think it is a fantastic weapon. It has some great balance bar damage. I like the animations. The animations aren't terrible. You know, swinging heavies with it though sometimes can be a bit of a pain. But you know, it's great for spamming finishes and all that good stuff. And like I said, it's not a really terrible weapon. I never used to like the sledgehammer that much, but I've started using it a lot more and doing some sledgehammer orientated builds, and I think it works fantastic like that. But yeah, I think it is a decent weapon. So the next one is the spear. The spear for me is going into D tier. I'm sorry, but this weapon is absolute garbage. I really don't like that weapon at all. Even at higher rarities, I tend to just leave it out. But unless I'm playing support Ash, you know, it's probably like the only character that works well with almost any weapon in the game. You know, spamming heavies on that to get the healing, it can work really well at like a legendary level. But a common spear, there's almost no reason to pick that up. I suppose as Hunter, it's not too bad either, because it is a fast attack speed weapon. I don't agree with using this weapon at all. So the next one is the staff. The staff, I think, is better than the spear. I think it has better heavy attacks and stuff. I'm probably just gonna put it, I think it's slightly better than the beat hammer, so I'm probably just gonna put it there. I think in terms of spamming heavies with this and spamming finishes with being a 3-speed weapon, I think it's fantastic for that. Has some decent finishes. The finishes aren't the best on it. However, having the ability to like stun lock units with doing some light attacks and some heavy attacks with this, and some great balance bar and hit radius detection going on with the staff, I think it is a fantastic weapon. And honestly, you're not going to do terrible picking up a staff. Depend on your character, of course. I mean, maybe I should have done like a different melee weapon tier list per class, but overall, looking at the weapons, you know, the staff probably belongs in B tier. As a warrior, I'm not really going to be picking up a staff unless it's like my last resort and it's the only weapon I can find. But you know, something on a leader standpoint or hunter or support, I think it works fantastic with them. So the last one is the sword. The sword, I'm probably going to put high A tier. The reason being, I think the sword has some of the best, if not the best, hit detection in the game. mainly because of just, you know, mainly for the lights. The heavy attack hit detection, I've noticed on the second swing animation, tends to miss units quite often, unfortunately. So that's something I have to take in consideration here. Otherwise, I might have put it in S tier with the lumberjack axe. But, you know, using this on Lord Arthur, I even use this on Leader Ash for spamming my finishes as well as along with the mace. I actually found the sword had the best results spamming finishes out of any weapon in the game. Just trying to, like, you know, how to do like 660 finishes for my prestige challenge, and I just found using the sword just worked the best. I don't know if it was just the way their light attack animations work, but even against like skeletons and stuff, you can kind of hit them with like the tip of the blade, and it kind of like can avoid using their shields, or like their shields blocking your damage, and that way you can spam finishes a lot easier. And it works great with warriors. Obviously it works great with any class in the game. I think it is a good weapon. It's just not lumberjack axe tier, unfortunately. That weapon is, like I said, it's on a league of its own, and the rest just sadly will never come close to the lumberjack axe until they potentially add hyper armor for some other weapons and the ability not to be interrupted during your attacks as much. You can get interrupted with the lumberjack axe in some occasions, but definitely not as much compared to all these other weapons, and that's why the axe will always stay S tier for me. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this melee weapon tier list, and hopefully for all the new players and people wondering what weapons to use, hopefully this does help out a little bit. If you're not interested in me doing class-based melee weapon tier list, feel free to leave me a comment down below and I'll get back to making that video, and it'll definitely be something interesting to like cover that type of thing. You know, we'll look at, you know, leaders, what's the best weapon to use on them, what's the best weapon to use on like warriors overall, supports, hunters. I think that'll be something interesting we could look at. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Leave me a like, hit that sub button if you're new to the channel for more Evil Dead content. And I've been Pixels, you my awesome viewers. I'll catch you guys in the next one.